Greetings and salutations, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at ancient India as we continue our work through the River Valley Civilizations. Now, India is a very rich cultural history, maybe one of the oldest, richest ones that we see, but it's also one of the most complicated, one of the most stratified, one of the just complex systems that we're going to see, both because of what was present and then what happened around 1500 BCE and what is left there. There's a lot of the foundations that we see in India that are going to become common themes throughout the rest of India's history. So let's get started. When we take a look at India itself, it's really important to point out the geography and the weather. These are some of the most key components to how India is going to develop the way it does and maintain some of those common trends. It is surrounded by mountains, lots and lots of mountains. I mean, we've got the Himalayas to the northeast, the Ghatas in the south, we've got the Indus River, the Ganges River that flow east and west, and it's a very complicated land geographically. We've got deserts, we've got plains, we've got mountains, we've got rivers, we've got swamps, we've got oceans. And it's a subcontinent. It's a plateau that operates very much like that. Then you've got the fact that the weather here can get kind of interesting kind of quickly. There are two monsoon seasons here, and a monsoon is just a huge storm. And yeah, the best idea I can put of it is, this picture. You've got kids playing in the street in water that's, waist deep. And it's like an everyday occurrence. And that's because this happens twice a year. These areas flood so frequently that it's not a matter of finding rich silt and good dirt. It's staying away from the water when it's coming at you, and that's often enough. The first people we're going to see move into this region and stay in this region are going to be around the Indus River. Now, we saw on that last map that is in the western part of India, and this is going to happen around 3000 BCE. But then the next 500 years, two city-states are going to show up and dominate the region, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. Both of these city-states are going to dominate in the Indus region, and the extended parts of the rest of the area as well, in some cases the subcontinent. Both of them are going to unite through trade, as opposed to unite through conflict. Harappa is going to trade extensively with India itself and as far away as Iran, and Mohenjo-Daro is going to trade west into the Persian Gulf as rather commonplace. And for about 1,000 years, this is the way of things. There's good years and bad years, but that's it. Most of what we have from both of these sites has been lost to time, has been lost to the elements. We know that the buildings here could have stood 3 stories tall. That's not unrealistic. There was a very complicated irrigation system, bathing system, but a lot of the ruins are just that. Ancient Indus civilizations created writing systems, trading seals, a lot like cuneiforms, only this one's incorporate language plus pictures instead of just the wedge-shaped indentions that we see the Mesopotamians. Some out of terracotta, you can see the language written those, and even toys, terracotta. It's a clay-like substance that's very common. You can do a lot with it, and it's very practical. Northeast India has tons of precious metals and stones, which is going to lead to some very amazing bits of ancient Indus civilizations created standardized weight systems. If I go to one place and I say I want a pound of something and they give me 12 ounces, I know something's not adding up. This was the first culture to cultivate cotton frequently, and cotton, it is the fabric of our lives. Here in Texas, it is the norm. Every person I can imagine is wearing at least one article of cotton clothing. It's light, it breathes, it's easy to dye, it can keep you cool and warm with a little extra of each. Now, working with cotton is a massive pain in the butt, but when you consider all the pros that come out of it, trading of this stuff is going to make a lot of these guys very wealthy. But then the next 500 years, two city-states are going to show up and dominate the region, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. Both of these city-states are going to dominate in the Indus region, and the extended... Now, like I talked earlier, there was a major emphasis on running water. Virtually all good houses would have some form of running water. Even bathing was a frequent thing. This is from Harappa, and it is the Great Tank. The idea that you would bathe both your body and your soul and be purified of both. Cleanliness was a major thing we see. And this took a lot of engineering to figure out how to do. How do you getting the water there? That's the easy part. Draining the water away and then refilling this in a time that was 4.5 millennia ago, that's a lot more difficult. But by 1500 things get interesting, and the Aryans show up. These were Indo-European peoples who came and, well, conquered the native Indians. They had better weapons, they had better tech, they were vastly superior, and one of the accountable concepts of these guys, terms, talks about conquering people with, quote, multiple colored hair. And that's pretty much all we've got from the Aryans. The Aryans are going to establish some new ideas. One of the big ones is a new political system that was not complex. This was localized clanisms and villages. Warrior chiefs called a Raj would rule. Now, that role of that chief was hereditary, but he was still responsible for the people. It's not just, I'm the biggest guy in town, so I get to rule over everyone. No, I am the biggest guy in town, and I am here to protect everyone, kind of. This was the first culture to cultivate cotton frequently, and cotton, it is the fabric of our lives. Here in Texas, it is the norm. Every person I can imagine is wearing at least one article of cotton clothing. It's light, it breathes, it's easy to dye, it can keep you cool and warm. New education models. There's the guru, the teacher who teaches everyone. I mean, even the Raja's children are instructed by a guru. The guru would teach exclusively oral history, so he would tell you the story of the history. He would tell you the story of the science or the math. There was no writing it down. There was no worksheets. There was no textbook. And this is kind of complicated because, well, a lot of the old stuff would be lost just because of who could preserve it, who would preserve it, and then it would create the idea that only the most powerful people could read or could write, and therefore they were the only ones who even could pass the information down, and we have unfortunately lost more than we should have. Ancient Indus civilizations But by 1500 things get interesting, and the Aryans are going to establish some new ideas. One of the big ones is a new political system that was not complex. This was localized clan. Now, like I talked earlier, there was a major emphasis on running water. Virtually all good houses would have some form of running water. Okay, last thing I've got is this, the caste system. This was the last invention of the Aryans, and it was a way that society was divided up, and the these roles, these castes that come to exist, are going to be the way that society is going to manifest around itself. The caste you're born in is the caste you're going to die in. It's the caste you're going to marry in. It's the caste your children are going to be born into. Nothing you do can get you out of your caste. Good or bad, that is it. If you're in one of these upper castes, life is great, life is amazing. And if you're in one of these lower class castes, it's terrible. And the justification for why this happens is because of karma, dharma, and reincarnation. If I'm in those top areas, I did something in my past lives and I'm being rewarded for it by being in this station. And if I'm in one of those lower stations, I did something bad in my past life and I'm being punished for being down here. This is going to really be a dominating theme we see throughout Indian history. And for right now, that really is all we've got about India. Hindu society is rich. It has a major impacts, which I'm hoping you're able to see and draw some parallels right now. But there is a lot more that happens following this point in India's history, which we will talk on later. Hope you all learned something. Have a nice day.